Yo, this is the Ancient Texan. Got a question for you. Who do you think runs the world? Who do you think runs the United States? Do you think you have much to do with it? I don't think I have much to do with it. I'm more of a centrist than most people are. I can usually construct the arguments on both the left and the right. I tend, to lean more left than I do right, but not on every issue. I look at each issue and I try to figure it out. And I have a list of what I think are the most important issues. Now, when I get in an argument with the other side, and I try not to, let's say when I get in a discussion with the other side, first thing I notice is I'm generally talking about something that I don't think is that important. If this other person came to complete agreement, found common ground, I don't think it matters that much. I have a list of what I think is important, like wealth inequality, nuclear weapons. And I'll just leave it with those two. But most of the stuff we'd be talking about, we wouldn't be talking about that. We wouldn't be talking about how to solve wealth inequality in this country, which leads to a lot of problems downstream. We'd be talking like what to do with the immigrants, which I actually agree that we ought to close the border and then bring in people that we want to bring in, which there's the rub. We don't agree on what people to bring in. But that would be an important issue to start discussing. When we start arguing about a wall, we're arguing about how to do something, not what we want to do. And we're not discussing the result we want to achieve and why we want to achieve that result and what kind of people we need in this country. And I think the people we need should be determined by us. Like if you're a farmer and you need some people to work your field, I think you put it on the list of, that's where your votes go. If you're an entrepreneur like who works in a technical field and you need some really smart programmers and you want some people from India, you put it on the list. Now, we can quickly get in an argument about, well, they should train Americans. But that won't take care of the problem today. So maybe we need a plan to educate Americans. And as we do that, phase out the amount of Indians that we get in. I think a general principle is that all laws should have, expiration date, 10 years. I don't know, some number. But I'm getting down on the nitty-gritty details. What I want to talk about is that you and me are not making the decisions on what happens. Like, they're not going to put you and me in charge of deciding what immigrants we get let into the country. Who's going to decide that? Well, I know it's not you and it's not me. It's not that most of the 300 million people in this country are not going to get a say on that. You say, well, our politicians are going to do it that we elected. Well, most of our politicians didn't sit down with us and tell us their point of view on what immigrants they think should be in the U.S. There's no way that I would know which politicians to support that would favor my point of view on immigration. And that would, if I'm one of 300 million people and I get to choose one immigrant that comes in, it just doesn't work. I mean, there's just not a way. Well, who do you think actually gets to make these decisions? What makes our system work? Pretty damn simple. Money. The amount of money I have, I'm not going to get a vote on immigration. And I suspect if you're listening to me, you're not going to get a vote. We're not involved in the decision. Nobody really cares, to be really crude, what the fuck we think. I don't use that word very often because I think it's kind of demeaning, and I like the word used in the real context of what it means, but it's often just a word that we throw out for the impact, and that's kind of the way I was using it right there. I don't think anybody cares what we think. I don't think anybody's going to consult us. I don't think they're going to consult 300 million Americans. Who are they going to consult? The top 1%. The Elon Musk. He gets a vote. He wants a lot of high-tech people to come work at X and Tesla and work on programming and AI. He wants the best programmers in the world, and he wants them to come to America. I think I would tend to agree with him. So Elon's, at least got part of my vote. I also think that if you have family members here, you ought to get a little edge in the line. But my point is, it's not you and me that are going to get to decide. And when we beat each other up, and you call me a liberal and I call you a MAGA and you call me a woke and all that garbage, would create hard feelings between you and me. And it accomplished nothing except creating hard feelings and making it harder for us to work together, to live together, to share together, to enjoy a beer together. It makes it uncomfortable for you and me to be together. And I suspect most of you are pretty nice guys. Maybe you're not, who I want to marry or have a beer with. But I suspect most of you are, if I take the time to get to know you, are okay. And I'd be better knowing you than not knowing you. And this animosity that we feel in this country against the other political side is complete nonsense, because neither one of us have any power. We're not making the decisions. It's the 1%. Bezos, Elon, Trump, he's a billionaire. Um, Bernie Sanders. So I'm sure some of these you have a good or bad feeling about. But the point is, it's not us making the decisions about our country. The 1% donates money and picks the candidates they want to back. Like the Democrats picked Biden because they thought they could win with him. Didn't let us Democrats decide who gets to run. And you guys, the conservatives, are beating us up for Biden. Well, we didn't have a choice either. You didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. You didn't really have a choice about Trump. You could say yes or no, but you didn't really have much of a choice about who. The primaries? No. By the time you get to the primaries, those people, and there's exceptions to what I'm saying, of course. 9 out of 10 of people that are in the primaries have been chosen by the 1%. Somebody in the 1% has decided to give them X millions of dollars so they can be an effective candidate. And without the backing of the 1%, you're not going to be in the primaries. And that's like the most involved we ever get. But when it gets down to making a decision, do they have a national referendum on, some way of deciding what the majority of people want with regard to immigration? Nah. They're not going to consult us. There's not going to be any serious effort taken to find out what the American people want. The 1% are going to decide it based on what they need in their business. A farmer that runs a big farm, a $1 billion farm somewhere, is going to have a lobbyist or some farming association that tells Congress what kind of help they want on the farms. Elon Musk is going to have lobbyists that say, what kind of programmers he wants to bring in his country, into this country for him to hire. H-1 visa or whatever it's called. The point is, you and me are beating each other up. And a lot of that is by the help of the 1%. They help keep us at each other's throats so they can keep on coasting and keep on making all the money and passing the laws in a way that makes them more and more money, and convincing you that we don't need an inheritance tax when, Elon dies, his children all get to be billionaires. That those children did more to deserve that money than the people who paid the taxes to finance the country that Elon works in, and gave Elon the investments. Private enterprise, you don't think those people are connected with the government either? They don't get laws that favor big investors over little investors? Well, I'm getting down into the nitty-gritty, but I hope you agree with me that you and me are not getting to make the decisions here. The 1% is making all the important decisions. It's kind of like being in China. Xi and the CPC makes the important decisions, and the people get to, lie flat or let it rot, if you know about those two movements. But the people in China don't get to decide what their laws are. They don't even get to decide if they persecute the Uyghurs or not. People in India don't get to decide. The whole world is run by the 1% that has the money, that passes the laws that lets them make more money. And I don't really think there's a way short of a revolution to change that. Now, in theory, some great leader rises up, and no, it's not Trump. Trump's taking care of Trump. Biden taking care of Biden. Kamala was taking care of Kamala. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have some opinions about helping the masses. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Elon wants there to be a tax cut. He's not really worried about my tax cut. And if he happens to give me $1, he'll give himself $10 if he gets a choice on how the law reads. He'll probably get $1,000 cut off for every $1 I get. Or $1 million cut off his taxes for every $1 I get. At the end of the day, they have their biases, and they're going to operate on what's good for them. And you and me, all we do is cut each other's throats and don't unite and try to take back this government and let it work for the 99%. Because right now, 49% and 49%, 49.5% is beating up the other 49.5%. And it's pretty evenly divided in this country. And that's by design. You are being had. And it doesn't really matter which side of the fence you land on. The game is to keep people on the left side of the fence throwing rocks over the fence to the people on the right side, and the people on the right side throw rocks over at the left side. That's the game. And you're playing it. The 1% have set up the game. They set up the news media. Fox on the right, MSNBC on the left. MSNBC instructs the people on the left how to throw rocks over the fence. People on the right, they listen to Fox, and Fox tells them where the rocks are. And if you're picking up the rocks and throwing them, the 1% is securely in charge. They're in charge. They're going to stay in charge as long as you think the people on the other side of the fence are the enemy. People on the other side of the fence don't have any more say about what's going on than you do. We're just clowns in the circus. They're not sending, the gate receipts to the clowns. They're just poking the clowns with sticks and say, throw those rocks. Anyway, this is the ancient Texan. And I want you to start thinking about what you're saying to the people on the other side of the fence. Have a good one. This is the ancient Texan. Namaste.